Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Massive week, finals footy. We've lost two, unfortunately. The Titans and the Knights. They're gone mad Monday, but we don't get mad Monday yet. We're going to power on. We're here. We're here all through the final series and beyond. So, once again, thanks for all the support. Absolutely loving it. Congratulations to those that won the fantasy leagues for us and the super coach. Well done there. Tim Comp's still going. So we go all the way through to the grand final. So winners yet to be decided. But Sid, welcome back, brother. It's the two OGs. What caught your eye on the weekend?
Aside from Melbourne ruining the contest, all the other three games were so good. That's what caught my eye. It was so good. I love the intensity. It was Origin-like, dare I say. I know that term is thrown around a lot, but there was so much intensity and desperation, even in the two games that weren't do or die. Lots of line speed, lots of last ditch tackles. That was really good, man. Loved it.
Yeah, it's a lead into our weapon of the week, and that was the fact that close games are back again. It's taken us basically 25 rounds to get to, but we've got there, and it's taken some really good finals footy to do so. But it was great to watch, and I mean, even though the Storm did pump Manly, it was just good the fact that the quality of football that they were playing. So, unfortunately, Manly just didn't come to the party. It was a crazy game to watch, but the other games were absolute crackers, and it just sort of shows you the golfing class between the top eight and a lot of people say the top six and the rest this year, which I think for mine, from going off last week's games, just made that even more evident, just to show how it was. So was there a team that really caught your eye on the weekend?
I know it's going to be a strange one, but I think the Titans, they did really well. Obviously, they're going to be filthy after that last monumental error from poor Patrick Herbert, who was breaking tackles left and right all game. And he thought, I'm just going to run over Tupou here. And he just said, oh, here we go. And then just flung it. He's like, no, I want to pass. And then you know what happens when you second guess yourself? The moment is gone. And so was the ball sailing over the sideline, and we took their season. But the Titans, they took it to the Roosters. I know Roosters are undermanned, much publicised, but Roosters are still the Roosters. They've got a great system, and they seem to never run out of players, never run out of quality. But yes, the Titans caught my eye. I'll watch out for them next year.
Yeah, they're a pass away going through to the second week of the final series, which we're going to touch on that game in a minute. But flog of the week, and that's for mine. It's not an actual person this time. This is on a rule that the referees just seem to have gone blank on. And once again, the referees are in the spotlight, and it's not for a good reason. Blockers, and I was watching on the weekend, and it was something that caught my eye the last few weeks, and I thought it wouldn't get to the point where it has, but some blockers on the weekend that really caught my eye. And one was in the Titans game. Obviously, Sam Walker kicked the field goal to win the game. Good on the kid, but they had two blockers right there, which in the state of the rules you can't do. Impacted Mitch Rain, who almost still got there. So if the blockers weren't there, he easily gets there and puts the pressure and charges down that field goal. So that was a massive play because that obviously won Roosters the game. And the fact that the NRL comes out afterwards and backs it and says it's all good, all okay. Well, it's clearly not. It's clearly against the rules. And the other one for mine that isn't getting much of a say, but I thought it should, is in the Eels Knights game. I don't know if you remember this one bit, Sid, but Suaso Sue came out and put massive pressure on Moses, who was about to pretty much do a charge down of his own, and it was really forceful. It was one that actually knocked Moses to the ground. That could have caused some serious injury there. And I just don't get where these referees are coming. There was nothing said about that either. The blockers, it's in the rules. You can't have a blocker. And I just don't get why this is continually happening. We've seen the other week where I forget what team it was, but they got a penalty for having the downtown motion, which every team has and has continued to have. So what's the game at the moment? We're in the final series and they can't referee or adjudicate one of these basic rules that I think every rugby league fan knows.
I think the referees are buried with all these rules and rule changes, and we definitely have been discussing it over the last few weeks in particular. The same, they can clean up the mess, they can mop up the mess, and your referee's boss can talk about it on Monday. But they've got to find the leak and plug the leak so the mess doesn't happen again. And the cause of the problem is it's really something in the off season. They have to just sort it out, make it clear, get a clear black and white set of rules. As far as that's why I should think, he did two things that I didn't like just on that, the Moses incident, and the one where he could have, and I've had a serious ankle injury. He could have actually rolled Fergo's ankle around. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
And then Fergo got up and gave him a spray. So he tackled him around the ankle and then spun his own body so that the ankle went with him. It could have done some serious damage, whether it was the ankle or the knee. And it's funny because you look at that and then you look at the cuddles after the guy kicks it, and then the cuddle gets penalised. But then something like that's borderline violent conduct. It's not. You can smash a bloke all you want. You can smash him. Yeah, we get it now that you can't hit him high, whatever. Bend your back, smash him. But that's dirty. That's dirty play, both those incidents. I don't know where he came from. This guy's just been a squad player wherever he went. He was obviously trying to, impact the game in some way. But it wasn't right. It wasn't pretty at all. It could have been very bad.
Yeah. The other quick one I will talk about is the decision in the Roosters-Titans game regarding which we'll get to in a second, but the Fafita no try for the obstruction that they're calling. Now, they're trying to make this rule black and white, and you cannot make this rule black and white. There was no way at all Patrick Herbert impacted anyone trying to stop David Fafita. David Fafita was scoring that try no matter what. And the fact that they ruled that and they tried to make it black and white, it's just ridiculous. I just don't understand how people at home, I say it every week, can make these calls and it can be correct. Yet someone in a bunker, when they have all this technology, they have all these different ways of looking at the rules and things like that, just get it so wrong. It's just mind-boggling, especially in the final series where arguably two crucial calls against the Titans have cost them a spot in the finals. And yes, we're going to about to go into the fact that Patrick Herbert couldn't draw and pass or give it to Fafita early, but it may have not have even had to get to that stage.
Yeah, well, on that one, I'll put it to you this way: they expected the decoy. I know he caught it on the inside shoulder and that black and white crap. I agree with you, right? There's got to be some logic. You've got to exercise some logic and some rugby league logic. They expect the decoy to go through the line, right? If he goes through, he's more likely to bump someone. So he stops before the line, right? All the video ref has to say, and I guarantee you the video ref boss the ref boss would have backed him up. He would have said, well, while he was behind him, Patrick Herbert didn't impede anyone. We're playing on. There's no infringement.
Yeah,
that's all he had to say, and I'll guarantee you everyone would have gone, oh, you know what? It's logical. That's right. That's what we want. We want real rugby league. That's the whole point of putting ex-players and ex-refs up there, but it's just not working because they're contradicting themselves or backing themselves in the corner by just saying, no, we're just going to rule everything. Look, it's supposed to be an entertaining game. You're going to kill every try. Yeah. People pay money to see David Fafita now. That was an awesome try, but guess what? It's going to disappear in history. It's no longer a try. It'll be 6 players.
It's ridiculous. And the fact that the NRL just continue to come out and back these decisions where I think every man and his dog can see a lot of these are wrong. It's just becoming increasingly frustrating. And I feel like we're continually losing fans from the game. But let's review some of these games. And the first one we spoke about was the Storm and Manly. And it was one of those games where I looked back and I just said, Turbo who, unfortunately, because I've never seen a player have so much hype in my life, and I was one of them saying he's going to be all lit this final series. Melbourne, to their credit, made him look like he wasn't even there, like he was injured for the game because he hardly touched the ball. Pappenhausen had a field day. He was the form fullback of the game, which everyone would have put their house on Turbo being it, and the Melbourne Storm juggernaut sort of went on. I will say, without being too harsh, it seemed like at the start the referees were all for Melbourne. It was a lot of calls going Melbourne's way to help them get the leg up at the start, which I think I said in the chat, I hope it's not the start of the refs loving Melbourne once we get to another final series, which so far it kind of has looked like. But to their credit, they did play some good footy. They finally maybe got that balance right. Smith went back to starting hooker. I know Hines wasn't the fullback, but Pappy's found a little bit of form, so you'd probably say, yep, you can keep him there at the moment. But what you make of this one, Sid?
Look, with regards to the refereeing, I want to mention that point that you just made. The conspiracy theorists, sometimes myself on occasion, we're all guilty of it when we get emotional, is say, the refs want this team to win or the refs want that team to win. What I really think is happening, and it's been happening for a good while now in the modern game, the game is so fast and difficult to referee, right, that what they do is the refs are inclined to favour the team that has momentum, so speed, winning the rucks. They're not dropping the ball when they play quick hands. They don't drop it. The refs will just go, all right, nice. They've got the momentum. Let's give them all the penalties, all the 6 against, right? And then when it goes the other way, they give the benefit of the doubt to that team. I think that's what happens. And Melbourne's so good at fast starts and generating momentum. They love a fast start to get a lead out. And then they're quite happy to protect that lead and slow it down when they need to turn the game into WWE whenever they need to. And then when they want to score again, they speed it up again. The manipulation of the speed of the game is first class, and that's been an imprint of Craig Bellamy for some time. But yeah, so to the point, I feel like the referees just go with the team, in short, that have the momentum, and that's why it looks that way. Now, with regards to Turbo, I feel like they nullified him. He was rattled. I know he's a big, tall guy and he's 107 odd kilos, and he's still like, 23, 24. He's still a kid, I don't see that as a man. I see it as a young man. He's still a kid, and he was rattled. He was also rattled on the third state of origin. He got hit a few times, and I think he got a bump on the nose, and didn't really see him much on the third state of origin. Do you know what I mean? And I think the Melbourne did that. They're kings of tackling guy, holding him up, and then another bloke comes in, hits him in the ribs, and then they twist him, and he ends up on the ground. 2 or 3, 4 of those takes 1-2% out of the spring in his step. You know what I mean? They're just so good at that, and they just chipped away at him, and then he lost his edge. Couple that with the fact that Manly were going wide very, very early, and I didn't see much of the middle till it was too late.
Yeah, I think Paris showed the other week, to beat Melbourne, you need to bash them. You need to be up front at them, and you need to make sure they realise that they can't dictate the game. So Manly didn't do that. And for mine, a lot of people ask me all the time why I have this hatred towards Cherry Evans. And I think on the weekend showed why I feel like he's the most overrated player in the competition, and obviously the most overpaid, is because their best player, Turbo, was nullified, that he was stopped. It's up to him then, being the captain and the chief playmaker, to step up in that situation and take the ball and take the reins and basically go from there with his team. But instead, all I've seen him do was, as you pointed out, it was go wide, force some stupid passes, which shouldn't have happened. Defensively, he was really, really poor. I thought it was probably one of the more poorer defensive efforts for some time that from him, and just never really that sort of what you'd think from a captain or your high price play, especially when a guy that carries your team so well isn't having his best day. He should have really stepped up, but I was pretty disappointed by that. I'll go to the next game that was the top 4 clash, and then we'll go to the knockout ones, which was Penrith and South. And obviously this is an upset. The Rabbitohs with no Latrell. I've been very worried about a South side without Latrell. They actually got the job done. Cody Walker stepped up. There's been talk he can't do it in big games, but he stepped up and was quite good. But what I liked from South, Penrith, we'll touch on them in a second, but they just bashed. They were just bashing him, and they just went old school. A lot of things have been said about Jairo throughout the year, but I tell you what, he took that personally this game, and he was a one-man wrecking machine. Then Burgess as well, Tom Burgess, he was outstanding, I thought. I think he gets a lot of negative raps with his loose handling, but that was one of his better games for mine. But Penrith, they also look a bit tired for mine. I'm not too sure if they can find the next gear, because now they're on the Melbourne Storm side of the draw, which is, I don't think they'll beat Melbourne the week after this one. So another year of probably what's ifs for Penrith, and might start putting some pressure on Ivan Cleary as the coach. But what you make of this one, Sid?
It was a classic case of youth versus experience. I know Penrith do have a couple of seniors, not much, but they're a very young team, a very energetic team. And the youth versus experience was mirrored in the coaching box as well. Seeing Souths play like that brought back fond memories of 11 years ago. Wayne Bennett did exactly the same game plan when we won it, when the Dragons won it, Their defense is quite simple. They do have line speed. You always see 99% of the time you'll see two players up top and one around the waist, and then they'll turn him so he's facing his own goal. And every time he plays the ball, he has to turn around again. They don't go for big hits. They're very grabby and in their defense. And it's always three on the forwards and turning them around. And in attack, all they do, they don't try and break tackles. They go between the players and try and focus on landing on their front between the defenders. You'll notice he got guys like Mitch Nichols and Liam Knight and these sort of guys that you never heard of before. Bennett started bringing them up because they all have one thing in common. Even Totola was just an average player. They have footwork, and then they don't step to go through. They step to just get between. So the torso, the upper part of their body ends up down. And yeah, as I say, it was exciting to watch because I thought, oh, here we go, Bennett's doing something here, and he had Adam Reynolds doing the Soward role, just kicking it in the corners. Yeah, just the kicking game is just unbelievable. It was a sight to behold. Again, punching above their weight against a superstar young team who Penrith could put 40 or 50 on anyone, but it wasn't to be. And I'm seeing some panic from Cleary. That's the last thing I'll say. The coach, in the way he carried on in the press conference, he's getting nervous.
Yeah, I think, and it sums up to just touch on what you said a bit more. In that youth versus experience is in the halfback role. So we all have no doubt Nathan Cleary is going to be an absolute freak. He's going to be the best halfback for some time. But Reynolds just showed him up, to be honest. And there was a few times in the game I thought Nathan Cleary chose to run when that wasn't the best option. And I just think that was sort of a bit of inexperience, where Adam Reynolds was sort of just a chess player. He just manipulated where he wanted people to go, put the ball in the corners regularly, didn't get bored with it, knew what he needed to do, and that was the spot. And then another point on the Panthers is that when the Panthers play well, they're two better players who don't always get the raps they deserve, but because of the energy they bring, are To'o and Luai. Both players were quiet. They had probably their worst game of the year on the weekend, and I have no doubt that's probably why Penrith played as poorly as they did. The energy wasn't there. It was really lacking. To'o wasn't getting his meters that he normally gets, and Luai wasn't jumping around, bringing that energy, which some people do get a bit annoyed at sometimes, but that's just sort of the energy that he brings. But in big game that we'll touch on shortly. But the next one, obviously, the Roosters Titans, and the only thing to really touch on here is that last play. We've already given credit to the Roosters. They're injury ravaged, and I think it's starting to catch up to them now. I think the long season of having some injuries, they do look fatigued. I don't think they'll do much this weekend against the Manly side. But Patrick Herbert, I do feel for him, but he just got it so wrong. It was like he had 3 or 4 ideas in his head, and he's just chosen the wrong one, where any of the other ones he chooses, it's right. If he goes to Fafita early, they're not going to stop him. If he draws in Tupou and just draws and passes to Thompson, he's unmarked in the corner. It was a crazy, crazy finish, Sid.
Yeah. The more we talk about it, the more I think about it. And there are so many things. He could even have angled in just a little bit because there was no one. There was only Tupou, and the nearest defender was at least 5 meters away. Angled in just to get Tupou to turn his left shoulder a little bit and then pop a short ball to, open up the door for Fafita to walk in untouched. There was so many things that he could have done. As you said, he picked the worst one. And watching that ball in his face going over the sideline, it's almost slow motion in my head. His face was like, It was like he'd been heartbroken, The love of his life said, no, I'm not interested.
It was nuts. One thing to point on this game, I thought Verrills has obviously now been suspended, and we know about it. He's been given 2 weeks. Now, for mine, if it's a 2-week incident, the NRL are admitting that he's done the wrong thing and he hit him directly high, forceful contact. So why wasn't he sin bin? I just do not get this. I was adamant watching it. It was a sin bin. Just because of the forceful nature. I know the guy was falling, but we've seen it in the past. If there's forceful contact to the head, whether he's falling or not, it's a sin bin. So I can't get the fact that now they're giving him a 2-week suspension, even when he tried to question it and seek the downgrade. If the NRL was adamant that it wasn't a sin bin, the downgrade should have been given to him. So it's just a confusing situation. I can't wrap my head around this one.
It felt like the referee refused to use it. They took the easy way out, which they used to do a lot last year and before the crackdown, the infamous magic round, where they'd just go, I'll just put on a report. They took the easy way out. It was clearly a sin bin. They had set the precedent. They had set their own precedent and then breached their own precedent. It's just a perfect example of the many inconsistencies, unfortunately, of our game. It should have been a sin bin, 100% agree. I'm not going to give you a rebuttal. 100% with you.
Yeah. The last game, Eels and Knights, Para got the chockies and a penalty try right at the end. I don't think we can really question that. I think it was probably warranted, that part of it. Knights put up a fight. Eels got away to a bit of a lead and then sort of fell asleep a little bit. Knights got a little bit of momentum, but I think this is a knock on something that you've been adamant about all year, is that when the game was there to be won, it wasn't Pearce stepping up as it should have been. It was Ponga. Ponga was doing a lot of for most of the game, anything Ponga touched almost turned to gold. His passing game was off the chain. But when it gets to that stage, obviously, as a Para supporter, you know who to defend. You know who they're going to go to, and it was Ponga. So I feel like Pearce should have stepped up there, taken some weight off of Ponga, failed to do so. Lots of question marks over him this off season, but what do you make of this one, Sid? I know you're probably about to do a bit more Pearce hate.
Well, what can I say that hasn't already been said? I think he's overrated. He's $1 million player. He's a senior head. He's got gifted a comp by going to Roosters. These days anyone can go to Roosters and get a comp. But all seriousness, yeah, I never thought he was as good as they make him out to be, and rightly, like you said, Ponga tried. He went to the next level. He lifted. A lot of their forwards I saw lifted. The Saifidi boys, Clemmer broke a tackle. I haven't seen him break a tackle in about 5 years since he was at the Bulldogs. Clemmer, he was, what's his name? Frizzell had a couple of nasty injuries, which he seems to be a magnet from when his days at St. George. He always gets these weird injuries, like a ruptured testicle.
Injury magnet.
Yeah, he's a magnet, but weird ones. He had a ruptured testicle a couple of years ago, and he was out for half the season. Yeah. But you know what I mean. And there was some good step ups, and even Kurt Mann he looked very dynamic at stages. I thought Parramatta would put 20 on him at least, as a margin, but they did well. But Pearce was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, it was just the Ponga show at the end there, and I think that's the only thing that kept the Knights in the game. And let's quickly touch on the 2 games this weekend. Some 2 big games. First of all, Friday night, Manly versus Roosters. Obviously, Roosters off the back of a win, and Manly off the back of a loss. So, battle of the fullbacks for mine. Turbo versus Teddy. For mine, Teddy got the upper hand last week. Who wins this and why, Sid?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I said Joseph Manu's injury is a bridge too far, and it's one too many, and Roosters still managed to get a couple more wins. Now I'm going to say Takiyaho is too much. One less forward.
And no Verrills as well.
One. Yeah, and who? Sorry,
no Verrills now as well.
Yeah, look, I get it. Do they still have Justy Lussick?
Nah, I think they're going to be putting Maskey in or
Oh, Freddie,
Marsh.
Freddie
Yeah,
Russell went to St. George, didn't he? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I've
He's
been
on
last
Mad
week.
Monday.
Yeah. That's it. Probably at Paul Vaughan's house. Yeah, no, it's a tough one. I think Manly are just going to give it everything. We might see a different Manly. I'm hoping. I'm happy for Turbo's sake. He deserves better than how he went out last week.
Mm.
The do or die back against the wall should be a good game. But I think Manly will be too strong.
Yeah, I don't think Roosters have the quality on the park anymore to replicate the game plan that the Storm had against Manly. So I think Turbo will be a bit more freer with his style of play. So I think we will see this Turbo show come back, and I think Manly will be too strong and probably win by about that 10 sort of margin. The next game is the Battle of the West, and I really wish this was able to be played in Sydney because this at Bank West would have been massive. It's a bit of a shame that it can't be, but that's how we're living, unfortunately, at the moment. But we sort of talked about it a bit earlier. Penrith are starting to show a little bit of chinks in their armor, and how is the young side going to come back out after a bit of media pressure? They're not used to that this week. They've had some media come out and blast their head coach and blast a couple of the players. Where are you at with this one, Sid?
This will be a real test, a real yardstick for Cleary. What he does. I'm of the personal humble opinion because I'm only qualified to coach under 12s. All right, but my humble opinion is he should rest them. They need rest. I think you said it earlier that they look tired. They lost the spring in their step. Even when they spread it earlier in the year, last year, they were spreading the ball at full pace. That's always a good sign. Not only do you have energy, that means their timing is right. Their
Just on
passing
that
is
as
on
well,
point.
they were one of the only teams that didn't rest players in that last week as well. So
Yeah,
that could be
yeah.
coming out to show now.
Well, you know what? Energy-wise, I think Parramatta's like this a little bit, and Penrith's like this energy-wise, which will bring them back to the field because they are. Let's not forget they are a great squad,
Yeah.
Penrith. But it's going to be a lot closer than I think it'll be golden. Or there's no golden point. I think it'll be extra time. This game, I really do. It's going to come down to 1 or 2 points. I will add. You know how you mentioned Toto last week. Did you know last week was the first game his whole year, including Origin, he didn't get more than 200 meters.
Yeah, I believe it. So
You know,
he was kept quiet. So he
so
needs to come back with a bang.
well, Reynolds kicking to the other side helped a lot, but he normally finds a way from dummy half runs and whatever else, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should be interesting, man. And there's a lot of intriguing battles. I'm really looking forward to this game.
Yeah. Look, I've got to tip Penrith because of the fact they just got that class, as you talked about, and surely they can get back up. But thinking about it, I think for the last few years, one of the top four have always been knocked out in straight sets. So that could happen if Manly do win. Then Penrith are the last team that could be bundled out in straight sets, and that would be huge. There would then be question marks about the tactics of not resting players in that final round and things like that. If Para to win this, they need to just be intense, be like they were against the Knights and how they've been against Melbourne. Is just be up in Cleary's face. Don't let him have any time. Be up in Luai's face. Get to him. Don't let him dictate. If they can do that, anything's possible. But you've got to say a Penrith victory for now. Sid, any last predictions, bold predictions for this weekend's games?
It was only 2 games, and I'm the worst tipster because I overthink and change my tip about 15 times a weekend. But it's only 2 games. I'm going to say Parramatta's going to win. That's my bold prediction. I'm going to leave it at that because that's the closest game out of the 2. Yeah, Parramatta's going to win.
I'll just say this. I reckon there will be an upset. I reckon one of the top 4 will be bundled out. So obviously Manly or Penrith. I don't know which game. It's hard to tip, but I think there will be an upset this weekend, and one of the big dogs are going home. Thanks, guys, for the support. We love it. A quick one just to wrap up some finals games. We're back next week. Thanks for all the love. Continuing it, and it's really warming to know everyone's out there loving it. So thanks, Sid. Enjoy finals week 2. I'll try and not be a nervous wreck Saturday night, but enjoy the footy, guys.
See you, mate.